So we have about 42 attendees, so that's great. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna get it started here. Thank you so much everyone for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. My name is Michael Walker, and I'm the Executive Director of the Vancouver's Downtown Association. And today we are giving a presentation on the September I-5 bridge closure. The northbound span of the I-5 bridge will close from September 12th to September 20th as crews replace mechanical parts that help lower and lift the bridge. And the southbound span will remain open to traffic in both directions. With the impact from this, the VDA is facilitating this meeting with the Oregon Department of Transportation, JLA Public Involvement, C-Tran, and the City of Vancouver to discuss mitigation strategies and local strategy and preparation. And each panelist that we have with us today will give a virtual presentation with an opportunity for questions and answers at the end from the public. So please welcome our panelists. Today we have Ellen Sweeney with ODOT Region 1 Community Affairs, Jessica Bull with JLA Public Involvement as their program manager, Chris Selk with C-Tran, the Communication and Public Affairs Manager, and Ryan Laposa with the City of Vancouver. He is the Streets Transportation Manager. And thank you all for joining us here today and our panelists. We really appreciate your time. Please welcome our first panelists, Ellen Sweeney and Jessica Bull. So I'm sharing my screen here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. As Michael said, I'm here with JLA Public Involvement, and Ellen will be presenting today on the Trunnion project. And Michael, we do have a PowerPoint with a video that we show if we
Perfect.
can get that control. Now I'll pass it over to Ellen.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ellen Sweeney. I work for ODOT. Jessica and I have been going out and doing these presentations in the community for a few years now. And I think that we've been to VDA before. So this will be kind of an update. We do have some new information for the project from our last time we came out to present to you all. So I'm going to share my screen. Thank you for your patience as I fumble through this screen sharing. Get this running. Okay, can you guys see that Interstate Bridge Trunnion replacement?
Yes.
Yes.
So, awesome. So this project, it's been in the works for years. We are going to close the northbound span of the Interstate Bridge from September 12th through the 20th. And we're going to be replacing some of those pieces that lift and lower the bridge. That northbound span of the bridge is over 100 years old, as some of you probably know. And all those pieces are, 103 years old. They need to be replaced. We do have a cracked trunnion up there that is regularly monitored. So we're going to replace all that, and we're going to close that northbound span for 9 days. And basically that's one Monday through Friday work week with 2 weekends on either side of it. So on the right here, you'll see kind of an image from the Washington viewpoint of, actually this looks like the Oregon viewpoint, I can't tell. But this is showing you kind of how constrained traffic will be during those 9 days. And here we have a little short video that is just really informative. We show it with every presentation we do. And we've kind of struggled with getting the audio to work clearly on some of these presentations. So we've come up with some solutions. I'm hoping it still works. So I'm going to play this.
In September 2020, the northbound span of the Interstate Bridge will close from September 12th to September 20th, as crews replace a cracked trunnion and other parts that help lift and lower the bridge. The Interstate Bridge is located on Interstate 5, where it connects Oregon and Washington across the Columbia River. For equipment that lifts the A5 bridge includes sheets, sheet rods, fenders, and cables.
Hey, Ellen, the audio's a little muddled. Hey, Ellen, we can't quite hear it.
What was that, Michael? You couldn't hear it.
No, it was a little muddled. It was really loud, and then it got muddled, and then we can't hear it now.
Okay.
So it's
Well,
kind of a
thank you.
slow decline.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, we're working through some options, but you know, we
No worries.
often show up as a guest at these Zoom meetings and on other platforms, and it's been difficult to make the audio work on these for this video.
No worries.
So anyways, my apologies for that, but we'll keep going through this overview presentation. Now, many of you probably already know about the 9-day closure of the northbound span and the constrained traffic and the impacts we're expecting with that. But I do want to make sure you are all familiar with all of the other traffic impacts that will come. You know, that 9-day closure is the most impactful for everyone. But the construction will begin in August and it'll go through October. We've got to set up the area, we've got to clean up at the end. You know, one really important thing to mention is that once that 9-day closure of the northbound span is complete, we will have a 7-day lane closure. And, you know, closing one lane on I-5, it doesn't sound very impactful, but we're gonna see some congestion on that morning commute going south on I-5 into Oregon for folks that make that commute in the morning. That's gonna be pretty congested because that one lane closure will mean that there's only 2 lanes going through in all the time for 7 days. And that's really, there's a barrier there on the left side that needs to be replaced on the Washington side before the bridge. And we're going to be moving it, and it's a little bit damaged right now, but we're going to be moving it to shift those lanes across the median. So we're gonna clean that up and do some repairs there. But also, you know, as our construction crews are setting up and getting things ready, you know, you'll experience some nighttime lane closures, some nighttime ramp closures, and there will be bridge lifts. I think that will also be tough during this congestion, during the 9-day closure. We're gonna have to have some bridge lifts in there as part of the work. So during the 9 days, September 12th through the 20th, there will be 4 ramps that will be completely closed. 2 on the Oregon side, the Marine Drive on-ramp to I-5 North, the Hayden Island on-ramp to I-5 North. Those are both on the Oregon side. And then 2 on the Washington side. And I'll dive into a little bit closer detail here so you can see what that looks like and what the detours look like. So here is that Washington Street on-ramp right in downtown to get onto I-5 South. It's also, as you know, it circles around, it's also the SR14 westbound to I-5 South. It's kind of a combined ramp there. That on-ramp will be closed. You might see some buses using that on-ramp, but you know, we'll have a flagger there. It'll be closed to all other traffic. So we have a detour here, and we did work with the City of Vancouver on this detour. It was on a different street. We moved it just in conversations with them. We're working very closely with WashDOT and City of Vancouver and City of Portland, all the traffic engineers are kind of coming together to make sure that the signal timing for these detours are analyzed and planned ahead and monitored during the closure so that those detours are flowing during the closure. So we're being really careful about that. Here's the second Washington ramp closure. This is the I-5 north off ramp to SR14. So this is the detour here. Yeah. So obviously we're gonna see some congestion. We did see a drop in traffic volumes this spring. They have been steadily increasing since. It's, you know, we don't know what the traffic volumes will look like this September because it, you know, it all depends on what's going on around us. But you know, if traffic volumes were at their normal levels and folks did not change their travel behaviors, this is the congestion that we would expect to see. You know, 4 miles of backups and, you know, about 16 hours of congestion a day. And we're expecting that congestion to be not just on I-5, but 14, 205, 84, local streets in Vancouver, North Portland. The effects of this closure is really, it's going to put a strain on the whole freeway system in the region and some of those local streets close by. So with that, you know, we've been out in the community for years, and what we're asking folks to do is really look at their travel behaviors, their travel patterns, and think, well, what can I do differently during these 9 days? You know, you can delay or shift your trips. Some people can work from home or an alternate location. Bus and transit are still available, and man, C-Tran is doing, is really enhancing their services during this time. There will be passenger rail service. And then depending on the public health guidelines, there's rideshare, van pool, and carpool. You know, that could be an option for someone maybe that you live with or something like that. So I won't touch on this too much. This is part of our regular presentation since Chris is here with C-Tran, but I do want to just make it clear we are working with many agencies in the region to make this project a success. And transit services will be enhanced during the closure. And they'll be providing some additional buses on existing routes. And then if some of you may have heard of Bus on Shoulder, but it's C-Tran will be operating Bus on Shoulder on I-5, SR14, and then also on 205 across the Glen-Jackson Bridge. So typically it's when traffic goes below 35 miles per hour or so, they'll hop over to the shoulder, and you might see a bus next to you. So this is also a really great resource. Get There. There's Get There Southwest Washington and Get There Oregon, and it's really a trip planning tool. So you can log your trips. You know, if you bike, you can figure out connections between you know, where you're biking to and from and where you need to get to next. You can find transit options. You can find carpool options, all sorts of things, possibilities with these awesome tools. I do just want to hit on our outreach. I've mentioned a couple of times that we've been out there for a few years now, getting the word out about this work. And we started it all off with research and doing some focus groups with people from the community, asking them, you know, what would they do given, you know, the traffic constraints that this project brings. What would they do differently with their commute for their life during these 9 days? And how would they want to hear about the project? So that's kind of how we started this outreach work. And it's kind of, we've done a ton of community presentations like this one. And what you'll see next is a large communications campaign kicking off with social media and radio ads and print and digital ads. Those will be all coming out. Actually, I think we're already on the radio. And so, yeah, we've worked with event venues and large businesses and all sorts of things to get the word out about this. So this is our last slide. This is our website, interstatebridge.org. If you do anything, first step, go to this website, sign up for the emails. We will be sending out emails about the impacts that are coming, lane closures, all of those impacts between August and October. So yeah, sign up for email. There's a bunch of information on this website. You can also contact us on the website. There's a phone number, there's an email, there's also a comment form if that's easier for you. But yeah, reach out if you have questions. Thanks, Michael, and that's the end.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. So I see a few questions popping up in the Q&A from Danette and Warren. We'll be having a public Q&A at the end. We have 2 more speakers coming online. My question to you, Ellen, is will that video that wasn't able to be played, can you provide a link maybe in the chat for that, for the public to view on their own?
Yeah, it's just on the website. So
okay,
if you go, this website here that's on the screen, you just go there and you can just hit play on the website.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, so our next speaker is Chris Selk with C-Tran, and she is their Communication and Public Affairs Manager, and she'll be discussing C-Tran public transportation mitigation strategies related to this project. So welcome, Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. So Michael, can I share my screen?
Yes, you can. You click share screen at the bottom and then perfect.
Okay, it's not popping up.
Let me, I can also open up that one you sent me if needed.
Yeah, could you open that up for me, Michael?
Yeah, 1 second here.
Thanks, sorry about that.
Yeah. 1 moment. Just open it here. Thank you guys for your patience. Moment here. Share screen. And then just let me know when you want me to go to the next slide, Chris.
Okay, sorry about that, Michael.
Oh, no worries. Perfect. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Great, thanks. So good morning, everyone. Thank you, especially to the VDA for this opportunity to discuss C-Tran's role in the Trunnion replacement project. Okay, Michael. For C-Tran, the most significant aspect of this project is the expansion of bus on shoulder to both Interstate 5 and Interstate 205, which Ellen touched on briefly in her presentation. C-Tran has run buses on the shoulder of SR 14 for 3 years with great success, great time savings, and no safety incidents. We're really excited to broaden this initiative through our partnerships with WashDOT and ODOT. So during the Trunnion replacement and beyond, C-Tran buses will be able to operate on the southbound inside shoulder of I-5 between 99th Street Transit Center in Hazeldale and the I-5 bridge. Buses will also be able to operate on the north and southbound outer shoulders of I-205 between Airport Way and SR 14. Now, certain traffic factors must be in place before buses may use the shoulder, and Ellen mentioned this briefly also. freeway speed must fall to 35 miles per hour or below for buses to be able to merge onto the shoulder and use it. And also bus speed is limited to 15 miles per hour above the traffic speed and no faster than 35 miles per hour. Now, our operators undergo rigorous training on using the shoulder, including how to get out of the way of emergency vehicles and how to manage any debris or obstacles that might be on the shoulder at the time that they're using it. Bus on shoulder is a rapidly growing approach to traffic management in many urban areas of the US, including the Twin Cities in Minnesota, Miami, Columbus, Ohio, and San Diego, California. Next. In addition to bus on shoulder, we are also adding 2 trips on 2 of our most popular commuter routes in the morning and the afternoon. Passengers can take advantage of additional routes on the 164 and the 134. And we will also be offering supplemental service on standby, which basically means that we have tripper buses at the ready to jump in case buses get stuck in a very difficult traffic situation and we need to get extra service on the road immediately. We'll be completely prepared to do that as well. Next. So I've just concluded this presentation with my contact information. If anyone has any questions, please reach out. And that concludes C-Tran's segment of this morning's presentation. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Please welcome Ryan Lapozo with the City of Vancouver. He is the Streets and Transportation Manager.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies for the lighting here in the office. I don't have a very good studio set up. We are working very closely with the project team. Obviously, the 10-day closure, the nightly closures leading up to the project and following the project are projected to have a pretty significant impact on traffic throughout the area. And so we've been working closely on the detours, on signal timing, and we've commenced recurring meetings here at the city with our city leads in various departments, just to make sure we've covered all of the bases. That said, we fully expect that there's going to be congestion, and so we're doing everything we can to prepare for that. As was noted, there's ramp closures, there's detours that are going to be in place. We're going to have staff who will actually be working out of WSDOT's traffic command center during the closure, so that if we need to make adjustments to signal timing, if we start to see hot spots popping up, our staff will be able to do that remotely, and we can respond accordingly. We will also be, I'm participating in the operations, on the operations team. So during the closure, there'll be daily briefings, identifying any problems that we're having so that we can respond to those as quickly as possible. I think the key message here for folks who want to prepare for this is to think about ways where you don't have to travel during that 10-day closure. As many know, because of the pandemic, many businesses, many employees have been working remotely. That is key for the city. Most of our city staff are working remotely, and we anticipate that they're going to continue to work remotely during the closure, so that we can minimize travel as much as possible. And we recognize that not everyone can do that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify large companies, large employers who do have that option, and are working with them to hopefully implement some of those measures during that period of time. And then that will help to free up some of the capacity for folks who do have to travel to work or do have places that they have to go to. I think the other thing that we're working closely with the project team on is communications. The city is very, very adept at sending out information through social media outlets, through print, through other venues to get information out to a wide variety of audience. And so we're working closely with the communications aspect of the project team to echo the messages that they are sending out through our own social media platforms so that we can assure ourselves that we're getting this message out to as many people as we can. As was noted, we expect the impacts not to be limited to just I-5 or even to just downtown Vancouver. We expect the impacts to be throughout the city. Folks are going to be looking for alternate ways to move between Washington and Oregon. And so there's going to be, we expect congestion on 205, on Highway 14, our arterial system, Mill Plain, Fourth Plain, SR 500. Folks are just going to be, I think a lot of folks who have to travel during that time are just going to be looking for ways to get around the closure. And so we're going to see a lot of changes in traffic patterns. So that's another reason why we're putting ourselves into the traffic command center at WashDOT so that we can respond, not just to areas on the detours, but to any area throughout the city. We actually have a what's called a variable message sign out on Mill Plain Boulevard east of 205 that's been in place for about 15 years. Doesn't get used a lot, but we plan on using that sign during the closure to help message issues that might be happening on I-205, on SR 14, or even on our own city streets. So again, working very closely with WashDOT to make sure that we can do everything we can to keep folks moving. We are also looking at the emergency response. What happens if there's an accident on the bridge during the on the southbound span? How can we rapidly respond to that? Get that cleared as quickly as possible. WashDOT will have tow truck operators on standby who can quickly respond to any vehicle issues. Because again, we need to do everything we can to keep those 3 lanes moving at all times. And then I think the only other thing is just thinking about the things that we haven't thought of. As many of you know, we experienced a protest a few weeks ago that moved through downtown Vancouver and eventually onto the southbound span. Obviously, it resulted in the closure of the southbound I-5 for a period of time. It was at a time of the day where it didn't have a great impact. It was in the afternoon, so it was when everyone was typically going north. But if that were to happen during this closure, that would obviously have a much different impact, a far greater impact. So we're just thinking about those types of issues and how we would respond should something like that rise to the surface. So again, I think the message is if you don't have to travel during that time frame, please don't. We have folks, I'm aware of folks who are already planning vacations during that week, just so that they can not have to work or not even be in the area. So if that's an option, definitely consider that. And again, if you're an employer who has the ability to allow your workers to work remotely, we would strongly encourage the consideration of that. But again, recognizing that not everyone has that option. So that's really all I have for our part of the presentation. I wanted to thank Michael for inviting us and continue to express our appreciation to the project team for all the coordination collaboration that they're doing on this.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. So now we're going to be moving into our Q&A from the public. We have 6 pending open questions, which I'll pose to the panelists for direct answer. I'll just go by order that they were received. So our first question is from Danette. Would it be possible for those bus on shoulder lanes to also be a carpool lane on 205?
Not out of the gate. And we really, C-Tran doesn't make the rules about who can and can't use that shoulder for transit. So it's specified currently for transit vehicles only, not Greyhound buses, not the Bolt bus, anything like that, just transit vehicles for now. That's not to say that that can't change in the future, but for the immediate future, it's for transit only.
All right. Thank you, Chris. We have a question from Warren. Can you outline the detours for northbound, southbound, on and off Jansen Beach?
Yeah, I can do that. And I actually have a graphic. I could just pull that up if that's okay.
Definitely, please.
And you said the Marine Drive?
On and off Jansen Beach, yeah.
So I think Warren, you're talking about the Hayden Island right here. Is that what you're referring to? This is the on-ramp to I-5 North. That's going to be closed. There are 4 ramps here, an off-ramp, on-ramp, off-ramp, on-ramp. This is the only one that'll be closed during that 9-day closure. So folks on the island here that want to go get on I-5 North, they'll need to get on I-5 South, go down to Victory, and then head back up on I-5 North. And I do just, anytime we talk about these detours, I do want to just clarify that this, this left turn here is probably one of those left turn green arrows. All those signals will be timed to allow a greater flow of traffic through these detour routes during the closure. All the timing here will allow for more cars to flow. So this will be the detour for that closed ramp.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellen. And if you guys have follow-up questions, feel free just to put them back in the Q&A and I'll be sure to circle back to you. All right, so from Tom Ralph, he wants to know if we're going to be resharing this as a live presentation. Yes, so I have this recording and it will be available on our Facebook. And I'll provide a direct link on our website for people who would like to view and share later on. That's a great question. Thank you, Tom. Our next question is from V. Purette. Please share a plan for outreach/advise to commercial trucking carriers, associations, unions, to keep businesses and industry moving.
Can you repeat the question one
Yeah,
more time,
definitely.
Michael? Sorry about that.
No worries. Please share a plan for outreach or advise to commercial trucking carriers, associations, unions, to keep businesses and industry moving. So I guess what's the outreach to commercial trucking carriers is the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have the trucking groups have, we do some separate outreach through them. We have a mobility advisory committee that all of our projects go through. And there are people that specialize in that outreach to the freight industry. So we, for example, and there are many ways that we're doing that outreach. Next month I have a presentation to the Portland Freight something. It's a committee for Portland focusing on freight mobility through the Portland area. So, that's one example of the outreach we're doing. We have, Trip Check, we have many other avenues to inform them of this constraint. We do also have some alternate routes for freight. One is 205, which will be may be tough during the closure. And then there are a couple other alternate routes for freight that we've pushed out there to the freight industry. Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen.
Michael, I could also share some additional information on that.
That'd be great, Ryan, please.
So we have the Port of Vancouver, as well as I believe the Port of Portland are participating in development of the operations plan. And I know the Port of Vancouver is speaking with their tenants, sharing the information about the closure, seeing if there's opportunities to minimize, at least minimize daytime travel during the closure period. We have a significant number of wind tower components that are coming out of the port this year for projects in Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, Idaho, and even up into Canada. And so we're working closely with those carriers to actually suspend the travel of those components during the closure. Again, just to try and free up as much capacity as we can. So I know, again, I know the Port of Vancouver is working with their tenants, and part of the city's outreach will be to communicate to some of the freight stakeholders that we've worked with in the past, Frito-Lay, others that we've partnered with in the past, just to make them aware of what's happening and see if there's options for them to adjust some of the travel that's going to be happening during that time period.
Thank you, Ryan, for adding that. Appreciate it. Another question from Danette. Will the social media posts include when the bridge will have temporary closings throughout the project, or possibly with a day or two of lead time? And I can repeat that again. Will the social media posts include when the bridge will have temporary closings throughout the project, or possibly with a day or two of lead time? So will there be alerts on Facebook related to the bridge closure and the staggered approach with the closures?
Yeah, you're talking about the main 9-day closure, right? Yeah, we'll have, and actually we've already had some social media posts, but that social media effort you'll see it ramp up, but you'll also see it not just with ODOT on our page, but C-Tran is amplifying the message, City of Vancouver, WashDOT, all of our partner agencies will be kind of amplifying that message, and it will just ramp up from here until the closure. And so we will absolutely be putting those dates in there and information about the closures. I see our social media specialist here has a note in the comments. We're also reaching out to 50 miles in all directions with Spotify and other digital ads, including reaching truckers on the move in the area. So, so really that social media will be a really heavy presence in the next couple months.
If I could piggyback on that too, Michael, for bus users especially, make sure to follow us if you don't already on Twitter. That's at C-Tran Vancouver, no hyphen. We give real-time updates when traffic is affecting service. So you'll want to make sure to follow us on Twitter for any real-time updates for service impacts.
And I would echo that the City of Vancouver, as we know, as we receive information about any closures, whether they're single day or multi-day, we'll be pushing that information out as well. So if you follow the City of Vancouver's any of their social media platforms, you'll be getting that information.
We have a comment from Linda Reed. This is just, I would love to see some C-Tran options advertised to show people how to visit downtown during the closure. This closure and telling people to avoid the area will be devastating to our restaurants.
Yeah, I agree with that, Linda, and thank you for bringing that up. We, as well as just participating in the overall outreach meetings, we've been doing a lot of work internally to figure out how we're going to push out messages during this, and that was one of the topics that we've discussed is, how to make sure that we can alert people that you can still get downtown during these 2 weeks. It's going to be vital. We definitely agree with that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Definitely. Awesome. I have a question from Karen. The Portland Grand Prix at PIR changed dates to September 11th to 13th. Is this still happening? It adds 40,000 people or 10,000 cars to I-5 on peak day. With COVID and the bridge closure, their new dates seem unreasonable, but we have tickets for previously to early September. So is anyone on the panel aware of the Portland Grand Prix moving forward with their mid-September dates?
Yeah, we communicate with PIR, and my understanding is that they haven't made a decision yet, and it's still on their website. I will probably be checking in with him again to just see what their thoughts are on that event. But as far as right now, I don't think any decisions have been made.
Thank you, Ellen. We have a question from Kathy Denny. I live in Southeast Riverside Drive, which is one of the residential streets that runs just south of SR 14. What will the City of Vancouver do to mitigate this?
So I'm assuming the concern is if we have congestion on Highway 14, will that spill over onto parallel routes? That's definitely a possibility. We have done quite a bit of traffic calming on the Evergreen Highway corridor, which includes Riverside, in recent years, and so that's been done, to address historic cut-through traffic problems that we've had. So we're hoping that the presence of those devices will continue to encourage folks, or I should say discourage folks from using those parallel routes. That said, yeah, I'm certain there's going to be some folks that are going to choose to take those routes. So we'll be monitoring that, and at least making sure that if they do choose to take those routes, that they obey the speed limit. We'll have working with the Vancouver Police Department to have increased traffic patrols throughout the area, just to make sure that as folks are moving around, that at least they're obeying the traffic laws.
Thank you, Ryan. We have a question from Anthony to Ellen. Ellen mentioned passenger rail service. Is that referring to regular Amtrak Cascades service between Vancouver and Portland? Or is there an additional service option, for example, temporary commuter rail? Thanks.
It's referring to the regular schedule that Amtrak has. Amtrak hasn't been able to secure additional cars or equipment for the closure. So that is referring to the regular schedule that they have.
Thank you. And then we have some questions in our comments from Ascot. We're also reaching about 15 miles in all directions. Oh, let me see here. From Jessica Parsons. Will the bridge lifts be able to be timed so they don't occur during the highest commute times? And can the bridge lift times be pre-announced?
Good questions. I know those bridge lifts are really impactful, and I think what's going to be tough is that they will need, as part of the work, they will need to do those bridge lifts throughout that 9-day closure. They have a certain number that they're allowed to perform during the closure, and they'll need to be doing that because one of the things they're doing in replacing all of those pieces that lift and lower the bridge. For example, they're replacing all the cable, those lines of cable. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of folks out there every year greasing the cables, but those cables, we need to stretch them and make sure that everything is safe and operating well before we open back up. That's one example of why they would need to do a bridge lift. But so in the contract, I'm not sure what the constraints are around the times of day that they're allowed to do bridge lifts. I would have to double check on that. We are going to do our very best to get out information in real time, and and I'll just say during the closure, we will have daily operational check-ins. So, the construction team will meet daily, and our communication folks will meet directly after, so that all of our communications from all the agencies can get together, understand that daily briefing of what construction impacts are coming, how things are going, and we can all the agencies will be able to get the word out to their community about what's expected. So we're really working to fine tune our processes right now, so we're set up for success in letting you know the best we can when those bridge lifts and impacts will happen for the project.
Thank you, Ellen. And if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. We have one remaining question, but feel free to ask some more either through our comments or on our Q&A panel. The question is from Dustin, and this is directed to Chris. How will C-Tran mitigate delays on existing routes within downtown Vancouver?
So I mentioned in the presentation our supplemental service. So we always have what we call tripper buses, which is, I guess, kind of inside baseball for supplemental service. If buses get hung up, we'll be able to dispatch them from operations and add any sort of service that we need to help mitigate any service impacts. And we'll be doing that in the same fashion during the bridge closure, and probably even more buses at the ready, just because we know how this is likely to go. So we'll be, doubly prepared with that, with those extra vehicles.
Thank you, Chris. And we have a question from Anthony. Is there going to be a lower speed limit on the southbound bridge due to the two-way traffic? That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Will you say that again? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I was reading a thing.
Oh, no
over
worries,
here.
I understand.
Reading the comments, yeah.
Is there going to be a lower speed limit on the southbound bridge due to the two-way traffic?
There will not be. That's the first time I had that question. There will not be. There's going to be, we haven't talked about the zipper barrier at all today. It's a really cool feature of this project. There's a lot of cool things about this project that are really interesting, like all the pieces that are, being manufactured. And I don't know, I just think it's a really interesting project, the work that they're going to do. But one of the cool things is the zipper barrier that will shift twice a day. And so this is a large concrete barrier that will be placed on the southbound span of the bridge. And it's actually, and longer than that. So it'll go, the traffic will actually cross over the median in Oregon. And so those northbound lanes will go on the other side of the freeway. And then they'll cross the bridge together. So southbound and northbound are sharing those lanes. And then that zipper barrier will lead those northbound lanes across to the other side up in Washington. And that zipper barrier, it's a big machine, it's a big truck that drives through. It takes about 20 minutes for it to shift that large concrete barrier to the other side of the lane. So that what that does, it does a couple things. It allows 2 lanes of traffic to go south in the AM peak hours, and then it shifts it and 2 lanes of traffic will go north in the PM peak hours. So that will be shifted around noon and again at 2 a.m. That concrete barrier will be there to separate the traffic.
Thank you, Ellen. That is really cool. We have a question from Casey Freshwater. Is the walking path?
Michael, can I follow up? We have an operations plan meeting coming up. I will bring the issue up of the speed limit reduction with the team just to get their feedback on that. Again, we're confident that the zipper barrier is going to do what it needs to do to make travel safe. But, you know, lowering the speed limit is not a bad idea. That's often done during construction work. So I'll bring that up with our operations folks and see if they have any thoughts on that.
Awesome. We appreciate that, Ryan. Thanks for looking into it. So with Casey Freshwater's question, is the walking path under I-5 going to be usable during this period?
Under I-5. Well, I know this, the sidewalk on that northbound span of the bridge will be closed for the whole 9 days. People on bikes and pedestrians will need to share that southbound span sidewalk. And we'll have flaggers on either side of the bridge specifically for pedestrian and bicyclists, just to kind of keep an eye on things and yeah, just keeping an eye on the traffic there, the sidewalk traffic. So I'm not sure, you said under I-5.
I think that might be
Does
referring
that
to
answer?
the Renaissance Trail, I think, maybe.
I don't know of any. I know that the sidewalk on the northbound span is closed. I don't know. I don't have any information on any the trail underneath.
Okay.
Michael, this is Ryan. Yeah, there's no plans to close any of the walking paths that carry pedestrians under the bridge on the Renaissance Trail. That's not impacted by the project. And so, yeah, folks will still be able to use that. They'll still be able to access, like was mentioned, they'll be able to access the southbound sidewalk that runs along the southbound span. But again, the northbound span sidewalk will be closed.
So thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ellen. All right. So I don't see any other Q&As. If anyone has any questions, we'll maybe just wait one more moment or another minute just to see if any other questions flood in. But do any of our panelists have any additional questions or information that they would like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, Michael, I'd like to share just a couple of things.
Yeah.
You know, we've put a lot of planning into this project. We did this on the southbound side back in 1997. So this is not the first time we've had to replace the trunnion or replace a trunnion. So it was very successful. We planned for a lot of traffic congestion back then. It didn't materialize, but we're going through the same planning, and we obviously have a lot more cars on the road. So with that said, folks that are traveling through the area during the closure and leading up to the closure during the project, the one thing that we can't stress enough is just make sure you're paying attention. It's a construction zone. There's going to be workers, all over the place. And so we just want folks to pay close attention, adhere to the signs, pay attention to the drivers around you, and let's just all be safe so that we can get this done and not have any accidents.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Someone is asking in the questions, Danette, please also bring up your future meetings, the option of using the shoulder lane for carpool. This worked well last time. There was a reduction of lanes on the I-5 bridge. It was quite a while ago, but it worked well to keep traffic moving.
So again, I'll bring that up with our operations team, because I do know we're planning as a part of the Highway 14 widening that's going to occur between I-205 and 164th Avenue, and that'll be under construction next year. There's a bus on shoulder that will be going in the westbound direction, and I believe that's also going to be available for cars as well. So I'll bring up the idea of potentially including the bus on shoulder portion on I-5 as possibly being able to use that for vehicle traffic as well. I'll bring that up with our operations team.
Awesome, Ryan, we appreciate that. And someone has one more question regarding beginning Monday, July 20th through Wednesday, July 22nd, the left lane of the shoulder on southbound I-5 will be closed between 99th Street and the Interstate Bridge daily from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for utility work on the median related to the bus on shoulder project. Does anyone have any questions regarding this or any feedback on what's happening currently?
That's just part of the bus on shoulder project. So as folks have noticed, we've had some repaving of I-5 southbound. They're basically preparing that shoulder to receive bus traffic, so it's going to receive a pavement treatment. It's my understanding that as they've done some of the grinding, they've encountered some things they weren't expecting, and so they're having to do some additional work. So that's why they have that closure happening. It's happening as we speak. The shoulder is closed so that they can do that work and then get that ready to receive that final pavement treatment. And then everything will get restriped, and you'll see a much wider shoulder than what we had before, which will facilitate the bus on shoulder.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. All right, we're right at 11 a.m. That's perfect timing. We really appreciate all of your time today, all of our panelists, and thank you to the public for joining us to learn more about this project. It's our first webinar that we've hosted as a VDA, so kind of learning curve, but we managed through it, and this recording will again be available on our social media feeds and on our website for later reference, or if you want to share it with your family or your friends or your coworkers who weren't able to make it today, well, that will be available to them. And we really appreciate your time, and thank you to all of our panelists. Everyone have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.